It's always inspiring and enlightening to talk to Jay Weidner, a friend of mine for at least, 70 or 80 years now, Jay? I don't know. 90 years?
At least 100.
There you go. Yeah. Timeless. What are you doing?
Well, what am I doing? Oh, I'm working my ass off, as I usually do. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight was the absolute destruction of Christianity.
There you go. That's one of the bedrock targets of Bolshevism, Zionism, of course.
Yeah, and I've thought long and hard about it. I'm not really, as you know, I'm not a Christian. I'm more like a Taoist. I was raised a Christian, and I know the Christian narrative really well. And I've been thinking a long time why exactly they want to bring this down.
Well, let me say one thing about Christianity as I understand it, practiced in its true form. It is the gentlest of religions in many ways.
You're getting to my point.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So it's clear to me that what's going on right now is that either Saudi Arabia, with Israel's help, I'm not sure, and the United States are forming a caliphate through ISIS. A caliphate is a real, as most of you probably know, is a Muslim attempt to take over the world. And it's been the goal of Islam from the beginning.
Well, they had I used to call him caliphate, but caliphate, whatever. The caliph. Yeah, the caliph.
Yeah, it would be maybe, and you know that California is named after caliph, right?
Yeah, now what's interesting is that the Muslim or the Arabs dominated for, I think it was over 700 years, the entire Mediterranean cultural, political, social ring. They were the dominant culture, and they had mathematicians, they had scientists, they had artists, they had it all.
That's because
nobody hears anything about it. Nothing.
Well, that's because the
I studied in college. That's how I know.
Oh no, it is. It's actually where the alchemy was preserved. All the secrets of alchemy and science and chemistry and astronomy, they were all preserved by the early Muslim scholars who put it down in Arabic. And then when Gutenberg invented the printing press, quickly we translated the Arabic over to German, French, English, and that became the basis for the Renaissance and the Reformation.
And that was, of course, the beginning of the end of anyone remembering where it all came from. Which was a lot of them Arabs and
Jabbar, the great Islamic scientist. But the whole thing is that the narrative of Christianity has a seed in it, and that seed, which is clear to me but not to most people, is so dangerous to the powers that be that they have to get rid of the narrative 100%. And the narrative is a slightly different view on the Christian narrative, but I think it's more akin to the early Christians and their view of what was going on.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, and I'm not going to argue whether Jesus was the Son of God or not. I believe that.
I don't think that's really relevant to the message at hand.
Exactly, but here's the main thing: Jesus comes into Jerusalem, and he throws the money changers out of the temple. Okay, now this is where he got into very serious trouble, I believe, and it came to light with the authorities there in Jerusalem that this guy wanted the temple to actually be a place of worship and not a bank, which is what it was. And so they came and they questioned him, and they saw that he was preaching this religion of love, for all people, even prostitutes. You could get love and slaves, and you're to love everyone.
Yeah. Kindness, Jay. Kindness.
Exactly.
Kindness. That's the one word, if I had to describe any to Christianity. Kindness. At least that's how it's supposed to be.
It's true. And so I believe for his crime of throwing the money changers out, a few weeks later they came to get him.
Oh, sure.
And he knew it. And how did he know it? Because he threw the money changers out. He lost his temper and threw them out, and he knew that he was going to pay the ultimate price, because he knew that what he was dealing with, the beings that he was dealing with were the Archons.
Thank you.
And
well
he
said.
knew that he had to show the world how you deal with the Archons. And you had to be fearless and never give an inch, but always forgive, no matter what they do to you. And the more that he forgave and the more that he showed them love, the more torture he received.
That's right.
And, whether he resurrected or he was a son of God, the basic narrative is that. And that's the narrative that has to be squashed from history, because it's a narrative that's actually teaching us how to fight against these evil invading, I don't know what they are. At this point, I can't even describe them. David Icke is even coming at a loss of words to describe.
As he said that too, I've been saying that for about a year.
Yeah,
I don't have the words.
Well, he went to Archons, and then he went from reptiles to Archons, and now I think he's just you got to be kidding. Like WTF, really? I mean, because the shockingness of their
I have a hunch. It's a possibility. I think it should be left on the table that whatever this evil is, and it is an evil essence, is it in our DNA, all of our DNA, some of our DNA, I don't know. It is evil off the chart. And I think that it somehow aggregates over a time, and in the end, the result is the destruction of virtually all human life, and we're gone. And we're gone for 1 million years, and the few survivors slowly regroup, and they come back. I think this has happened over and over again at the hands of this evil. This evil, and I think you're seeing this evil now coalesce in our faces. They're not even trying to hide. And I think we are potentially, seriously, at the end of another cycle of humankind on this planet.
And I think a lot of people would agree with you. The high cultures always are created, and then the people that are not in the high culture from the outside, they come in and they're cheap labor, and then slowly the high culture is taken down.
This is a parasitic evil, because it makes its own wealth, its own largesse, its own way on the labor of others. It sucks from them not only their physical labor, but it sucks from them their inherent goodness.
That seems to be the one of the main reasons that they're doing what they're doing, is to turn us from kind and nice,
gentle people into perversion, pornographic.
In World War I, with they would have these guys that would have sticks, and they would go down the trenches and they would hit the rifles of the people that were firing, because they were always firing over the heads of their opponents. They didn't really want to hit anybody. And so they had these guys with sticks that would hit the gun so that they force it down so that they would shoot the enemy. So people really don't want
the inherent nature, and they had the same problem in World War II. The inherent nature of the American soldier, and I know the German soldiers as well, was not to kill. They didn't like killing. Killing is an unnatural thing of our species.
Very difficult.
That's a very good point you raised, by the way. World War I, same thing in World War II, and that's why they came up with all this. They're basically PSYOP training operations that they put American troops through. They're using all these techniques and technologies to teach them to kill without remorse. And then, go ahead.
No, you're hitting it right on. Okay, so what do they do in these basic training camps? Is they cause cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
They cause a separate reality than the reality that the soldier had previously learned in school or college or whatever. And then they slowly reform.
Shall not kill, remember, folks?
Remember
that one?
And they slowly reform your brain through traumatic incidences, through boot camp, shots going over your head. And
you're rewired.
Yeah, and now they're doing it, now they're taking it globally. And that's what Sandy Hook is about, Boston. They're doing these trauma events to us because we refuse to lower our rifles and shoot our enemy. So they have to teach us to be psychopaths, like they are. And that's one of the main goals of the so-called culture that's around us right now, is to turn us into psychopaths.
We are lurching toward a conflagration here. Now, I know, you know, Jay, and most of you listening know that this is an onion-like situation. Many layers to this that we'll never know about. But the surface is so overwhelmingly clear-cut that this is an effort to provoke Russia into war, to force Russia into war, that it isn't funny. It's sick. And yeah, this is a war, basically a Bolshevik Zionist Archon war against good and kindness. Kindness, what is kindness viewed at in the contemporary peer group today of our younger people? Weakness. Wimpy. If you open a door for somebody, you wimp. If you're nice to somebody, what are you such a wimp about? This is it. It's mean. Meanness. Oh, yeah.
Since you're bringing it up with Putin and all that, if you really want to get a good example of what you're talking about, read Putin's New Year's Eve address last year.
I heard that was one of his greatest speeches.
It was all about kindness. It was all about being kind to each other.
Kidding.
It was I read it to my wife, and I said, "Can you imagine an American politician reading this to us?"
Not a chance in hell. Will you send this to me? Will you?
I will. It's astonishing. I mean,
I'm going to put it back.
It's
up.
like, really, and you be with your families and love your families, and we're all. When
was the last time you heard this from the mouth of an American politician? Maybe JFK alluded to it, but
maybe more like Warren G. Harding.
Yeah, there you go.
But I mean, it was amazing, and and it was really an appeal to the heart, which we don't have anymore. Again, though, you can see this kind of overarching evil taking over America and using it, and the end is nigh. I mean,
what happens, Jay, and you know this all too well, is that the younger generations no longer understand what the hell we're talking about.
That's right.
They
don't know what they're losing.
It's taken away from them. It's not in their mental lexicon of human emotions and interactions. It's viewed as weak. It's viewed as, that old-fashioned crap. Okay.
Oh, racist. There's just a bunch of old racist, sexist, homophobes who, that they ruined everything. Not thinking about building an incredible civilization out of a wilderness and the things that were really accomplished that were amazing. And they've been taught from the time that they entered school, because the millennials especially, that everything about America is bad. Everything about Europeans is bad. Everything about Christianity is bad.
That's a war on Caucasians.
Oh, well, it is. There's clearly a war on Caucasians.
European whites. Absolutely. We got it in spades here.
I would say that whites have about 100 years left. I've been doing the math
they're marked
lately.
For extermination.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
They have about 100 years left.
Yeah.
And the only way that they can actually save themselves is if they form small countries, or they all move to one state, or I don't know. At this point, I've been doing the math, and wow, it isn't good.
Well, multiculturalism, integration, assimilation is out. Forget that. All these groups coming into this country are staying and clinging to themselves, their own cultures. To hell with America. But you're right. Americans of European heritage, this is what David Duke talks about, and others on my network, very important and as worthy and viable as the pride of any other ethnic or religious group or political group. We have to tragically pull together, and you're right, whether it be a zone, like they chopped up the U.S. into 10 zones, so we move into zone 10, whatever. But unless we do pull together, we will be unquestionably, very quickly removed